everybody else here, I can see. Thank you. We're going to record today's session. So happy Fridays. We've got a few things to go through today. I think we'll get going. We're just a couple of minutes past the top of the hour. So again, I can only see you in little boxes. So if you do want to come in, just do jump on in. I'm not being rude if I don't see your hand, but I know others might be able to see you. But this is our little greener care group, which is fantastic to have you all here. Thank you very much. And I know you've already been on a meeting for an hour, so please do feel free to eat your lunch in the background if you're having to. So not a problem at all. We've got just a pretty tight agenda today. I thought we'd do a topical presentation, and I'm happy to do that for about 20 minutes or so in a few minutes. Then I think, Joe, we want to just update on the subgroup work and the module that we've been working on and how we're going to take that forward now. Lorna, if you're up for it, I'll give you a heads up just that you've been thinking about work we might do in care homes. So that might be helpful to just have a conversation about that as well, about how we might be able to do some work with you, which would be fantastic. And then anything, I'll make sure we leave a few minutes at the end for any exciting things that we need to know about, we haven't heard about, that you might have seen since we last met as members, and just tell you when the next meeting is. How does that sound? Does that sound like a plan? We're all good? Excellent. Okay, so I think if I will remember how to share my screen. Coming up now. And somebody can give me a thumbs up if they can see that okay. Yeah?
Yeah, we can see.
Perfect. Let me just go to slideshow mode. How's that? Can you see everything now? Perfect. Is that okay? We're all good to go?
Yeah.
Excellent. So the first thing I wanted to do was talk to you about your holidays. So it's only going to take me 15 minutes or so, but to share some new research. I thought it was timely and topical to have a chat about sunscreens and sea life. We talk an awful lot about carbon emissions, but as you know, this is one of my favourite subjects, and the same thing happened to me with sea, oceans, as it did with carbon emissions. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I think we should know about this. So if you just bear with me, I thought we would have just a chat about sunscreens. Now, I remember I have to put this on there. So are you getting ready for your holidays? So it's that time of year, isn't it, where we're all thinking about, we're ready for our break. We've been locked down for a couple of years maybe, and maybe we're going further than somewhere local for a local vacation to somewhere more exotic. So in doing that, you may be buying one of these, and this is just a photograph of my local drugstore, where every single one of these products is there for us to buy. We've been strong with a health message about protect your skin. I heard them even talking about that again today on the television. So everybody, I guess, will be thinking last year's is out of date. Let's go and buy some. And that means that in every store, in every town, every city, that's an awful lot of sunscreen. And if you don't know him, my friend on the left hand side here is Plankton, a buddy of SpongeBob. So if you don't know, you need to maybe go and ask your very small children. He's the one that steals the Krabby Patty recipes, highly recommended. So let's just go on to talk a little bit about the importance of plankton. Because not only are they really very beautiful, but the importance of them is that every second breath comes from plankton. So we hear a lot about how we have trees give us the oxygen, but actually every second breath comes from plankton. I had no idea of the importance of them, other than I probably did know, and maybe you do know, that whales eat them. So what I wanted to do was to just focus on the importance of plankton as part of the chain of food in the oceans. And I'm going to share some facts with you from the Global Oceanic Environmental Survey. So 70% of our oxygen coming from plankton. I've said that second breath comes from plants in our oceans. And what's really pretty shocking is we've lost 50% of all marine life. Now, some of that we haven't even discovered yet, but that's really quite concerning for us, that marine life is being significantly impacted. More than 50% of the world's coral reef are dead, and 50% loss again of the plankton. So what happens if we start really contaminating the oceans is the pH level of the oceans drop. And if it goes below 7.95, what happens is the animals that have shells start finding their shells won't stay on them. So it is pretty serious. The amazing facts that I've found out over the last few weeks is that plankton, not surprisingly, don't like sunscreen, and one bottle of sunscreen can kill 140 billion microscopic animals and plants. So that information for me made me think, okay, we need to really understand the chemistry of this. And I hadn't thought about it before, but again, Howard Dryden and his team who are looking at plankton in the ocean said that just 1 teaspoonful of detergent can wipe out a whole aquarium. And that sort of made sense to me. I could somehow visualize that. But we now know for sure that the impact of some of the sunscreens that we're using are actually impacting on sea life. So Stanford University, and this is the information that I wanted to share with you today, have recently published in Science some work based on something called oxybenzone. So it's a chemical linked to coral bleaching, and it turns into an agent that damages cells when it's exposed to light. And that's really interesting because it's doing to the marine life exactly what we're trying it not to do to us. So we slaver it on to try and stop the damage from light. And by putting it into the oceans, actually what we're seeing is it's damaging the plankton and then the animals, as it converts a sunscreen into something that is essentially the opposite to what we use a sunscreen for. So I'd like you to maybe go and check the back of the bottles that you've got in your cupboards, because there are 3 bad reef and sunscreen toxins, those what I've called the 3 O's. The oxybenzone, oxycrylene and octioxate. So interestingly, these are banned for sale now in some places. And again, I didn't know that. In Hawaii, for example, during COVID, they noticed that the lovely shiny, what they now recognize was a slick on the ocean, on the water, disappeared. And the marine life started to recover. And of course, they recognized that the cruise ships coming in with all of their customers weren't using the sunscreen, and that wasn't getting put into the Hawaiian seas. So on the 1st of January this year, actually, Hawaii was the first state to pass an official ban on all of the shops selling these products. On the left-hand side, you can see there's a whole load. If you're going to any of these exotic places, you might need to think about it. But you know, the Caribbean has lost 90% of its reef since 1980. So this isn't something that isn't having a significant impact, and it is something we can do something ourselves about. I'm sharing this graphic with you, and we can pop this in maybe the folder, Jade. It's from NOAA graphic, a great name, isn't it, NOAA? It's the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And this graphic just shows you how the chemicals get into the marine environment. They impact then on the algae, that is eaten and impacts on the coral, and of course the fish further up the line actually become contaminated. So even when you're washing or showering, the sunscreens might come off even if you're in a swimming pool and enter our waterways. So it's not just if you're on the exotic beaches, it could be absolutely anywhere. So what can you do? I think the first thing we need to do is try and make those links more obvious. The use of chemicals in sunscreens and cosmetics now need to be really clear, and we need to link our behaviours between what we like to do and the impact that maybe we're having by some of those actions inadvertently. I'm sure we're not doing it deliberately, are having impacts in other parts of the globe. So having a great time on the cruise ship may mean that our glaciers are actually melting faster than we thought they would. We need then to change our behaviours and make different choices. So before your holidays, I would encourage you then to ask for a couple of these things. So you will have to Google them. They weren't in my local chemist or Tesco's. They actually are things you have to look for online. They're non-nano, which is not very tiny particles, which also have difficulty, mineral-based sunscreens. If you don't want to buy or you don't like using sunscreens, there's now ultraviolet protection in sunwear that you can use. And obviously the old messages are still valid, keep in the shade between 10 and 12 if you can. But I'm excited that as a group, we could share some of this information. We could actually build some awareness so that we can start putting pressure on some of those suppliers to have those products in their buildings that we can go and buy. And again, SpongeBob SquarePants and his friends will thank you very much if you would take a different choice in your purchasing. So let's help keep the places that you visit and hopefully will visit in the future free from chemicals. And it is a shame to see that in these beautiful places they have to put these sorts of signs up. But have a great vacation. I want you to go away thinking not just about sunscreen, but have a good holiday. And these are some of the references I'll leave you with. But of course, I'm going to go off now after this session and speak to the son about that plastic single-use straw that he's using, because obviously he's not quite got the message yet either. So thank you very much. I hope that was an interesting little foray into sunscreen, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Just entirely coincidentally, there was an article in the Times today.
Oh, right. I didn't
about
see it.
sunscreens and about the problems that some of the very expensive new mineral-based sunscreens have in respect of they're not actually fulfilling the sun protection criteria that they are reckoning to do. I need to say it is the expensive ones that are falling the furthest short from, I think, brands like Clinique and so on in particular.
Yeah.
And I just wondered whether you've got any recommendations for mineral-based sunscreens that that actually do provide the kind of protection.
Yes, I'm not here to product place.
No, that's okay,
John,
but
obviously.
go ahead. We're all ears.
Okay, so one is Badger. The Badger is one that's very well used. I was just looking over my shoulder to see if I could see my own, but it's in the bedroom actually. But it's called Screen to Sun, I think it is, but I will look it up and put it in the chat for you as we're talking. And these have been put through a really very rigorous approach in the States, tied in with Hawaii and also the work that they've done at Stanford University, because they wanted to provide an alternative. I had to buy mine online from the Manchester Dive Shop. So again, I have no association with the Manchester Dive Shop, but it sort of made sense that divers going to exotic places might want to buy this sort of stuff and might be more aware of the reefs and things. So it isn't straightforwardly available, but Badger I know is available easily online, but be careful if you are looking at some of those high-end ones. I also looked at the Clinique and the other ones, and no, they're not fulfilling, and the evidence is quite clear about that. So there may be a bit of, we can't call it greenwashing, we could have to call it blue washing, John, won't we, that people are doing. But I would love to be able to go into Tesco and pick one of these off the shelf, and I shall be asking Mr. Tesco next year if he can provide that.
Perfectly put. And Adam says Holland and Barrett do one in different SPFs.
Perfect. Adam, well spotted.
And
Thank
Jade
you.
has just checked hers and she's got no O's.
Hooray!
Tony's got his hand up. Tony.
Come in.
Yeah, I was just further to saying that some expensive sun creams don't have the UVA or UVB rating. I've noticed that one of, just like Jade has, quite a lot of these supposedly kind of reef safe ones that are branded as reef safe do have nano or micro titanium in, which is particularly bad. In fact, I've just finished a project for my own company to remove that from one of our products, because it is quite a persistent water contaminant.
Right.
So yeah, you need to check the ingredients list, particularly if you're buying online, quite
Yeah.
often they don't have full ingredients lists, which is a pain. So yeah, you need to be quite careful.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm glad I mentioned the nano. That was something, again, people are getting tripped up on. So it's really tricky, isn't it, trying to do the right thing? You know, it takes quite a bit of work to do it. It's much easier to just go in Tesco and grab it off the shelf. So I think that's why risk raising the profile is important, I think. Thanks, Tony. That's really helpful to know that evidence behind it. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think I've bored you with sunscreen enough for one day, but I hope it was interesting. I like to find things that are a bit off the wall that we can have a conversation about, but then maybe have conversations with other people about. That's what's really important. Oh, Jazz, what have you got that's easily applied? I need to hear the end of that story.
Oh no, I was saying that what you're talking about is so easily applied into real life.
Ah, I'm thinking
That's
your
what
sunscreen's easily applied is what I thought you were saying.
No, I tried the Nivea one, which said it had Ocean Respect, and I'm now Googling its ingredients because I don't know if I trust it or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the language, the packaging. Sometimes, you know, I'm seeing a lot of things that people are going, great, okay, let's make this is fine. And then when you dig in, there's some little bits that we didn't know about. So
I'm just going to go and get my copy of the Times, and then I can read out to you what it says. Okay.
excellent. Okay, perfect. Yeah, banning them everywhere. Adam, that was a great idea. Okay, well, thank you. While John goes and gets his Times, shall we